Hey everybody, Rosematter here. Welcome to part 2 of my Chaos Head Noah Let's Play. So far I am finding this game very intriguing. In the little time that I played it, it definitely seems to be leaning more on the psychological horror aspect of the coin. So we're playing as, I believe his name is Takumi, who is a shut-in high school student. He's not a very likable character, from what I've seen. He basically only goes to school when he needs to. He just wants to be online all the time. He's like a typical like shut-in otaku. And there's these new generation murders going around in Shibuya, and he gets a message online from a random person who just shows him a bunch of like photos of this crime that has not been announced or like nobody seems to know about. And then he happens to come across that exact murder scene the next day, and there's a pink-haired girl standing in front of it. So that is kind of like where we left off, is like, who is that girl? Was she the person who sent the images? Also, there's like a delusion game mechanic, so you can choose between having positive or negative delusions. So, and a big thing too is like he believes since he was young that someone is watching him, like God is watching him. Somebody is always watching him. And there's this whole thing about like whose eyes are those eyes? It's a thing about like eyes and being watched and stuff. So it seems like he's been having these delusions for a very long time. So it's interesting, kind of like a character who has like a disconnect from reality, even before all of these murders start happening. So yeah, I'm liking it so far. Yeah, let's go ahead, jump into the next episode and see what happens next.
Lion cross, Lion cross 約束は今 Lion cross, Lion cross 果たされるから Lion cross, Lion cross 解き放たれた Lion cross, Lion cross 週末
Late into the night, the sound of a beautiful voice could be heard throughout Miyashita Park. Alright, new character. It was coming from a pedestrian bridge that crossed over Meijidori. A steady flow of cars passed underneath. But in spite of this, the girl known as Bess showed no signs of being affected by the noise. She simply kept on singing, leaning back against the handrail of the bridge.
月夜の光が示された従者よ
On any normal day, if she were to sing on the street in public like this, she'd surely attract hundreds of onlookers. But right now, nobody was listening to her sing. Her Bess was deliberately concealing her presence, blending into the stillness of the night.
この場所へつながる幻の道
This way, she could loiter quietly until the moon left the sky behind. By doing so, by becoming one with the darkness, she felt as if she could free herself from the corrupt atmosphere of Shibuya, if only for a moment. This is what Fess felt to be true.
叫びはいつしか沈黙に変わって
Suddenly, Fess looked up to the night sky. The clouds covering it were starting to clear up little by little, leaving space for the moonlight to shine through in their wake. But sadly, any and all starlight was completely drowned out by the dazzling neon of Shibuya.
落ちてゆく安息風に手と手をつないで
Fess halted her song and slowly reached out her hand toward the sky.
その目誰の目
There it is again. About a day had passed, and I'd spent pretty much every hour of it in Baselard. I'd hardly even made time to eat. I'd immersed myself fully into the role of Nineheart, and in the process completely erased every trace of Nishijo Takuma. In Iso, I was an absolute god. No demon could ever strike fear into my heart, and I was respected by everyone. If only I could live in such a comfortable world for all eternity. I was certain I'd be far happier that way.
おおー、エンジェルハイロ来た来たこれ勝利すげえこれは早速使わないと。装備。おお、キャラの見た目変わった。すげえこれすげえ見て
Oh, someone's knocking.
あ、ナイトハルト自重しろ。うっせえ死ねえよ負け組
Oh, I hate his laugh so
ちょっ
much.
と街に戻って見せびらかしてこようかな。
お兄
Oh, okay, it's her. It's okay. His sister. Finally, another legendary item to add to my collection. Naturally, I was stoked. My depression from earlier had been completely blown away.
お兄ってば
And then probably be like, oh, then my stupid sister has to show up and ruin everything. The angelic circlet had a drop rate of 0.0001%. It was so rare, some players thought it was unattainable.
おーい開けろ
Well, its stats were shit, so it was pretty much just a cosmetic item, but that was good enough. People could tell you had an angelic circlet just by looking at you, which was enough to make anyone green with envy. I never really played MMOs, but this kind of harkens back to my days, God, for my fellow older people out there, Gaia Online. And I remember, like, certain items I wanted so badly. And I did have, like, there was the halo. You could get a halo, and I think it was a decently rare thing, and I had one, and I had like some wings as well, and like I remember those being quite rare.
お兄
やった。ナイトハルトがまた一歩神に近づいた。
こら開けろ
Shut up! Who the hell has been banging on my door for so goddamn long? Just when I'd finally managed to get a hold of a rare item, this happens. Couldn't a man enjoy his victories for 1 second?
バカ鬼
That voice. The moment I realized who it was, my mood instantly took a nosedive. There was no mistaking it. That was the voice of an assassin sent by my parents. My little sister, Nanami. What a pain in the ass.
開けないとひどいんだからね
Well, shit. Here came the storm to rain on my parade. I really didn't want to let her in, but if I didn't, my parents would probably get on my case about it. Stop living alone and move back in with us, they'd say. I bet she'd come in and be like, oh, what a pigsty, how do you live like this? I'd ignore them if I could, but my dad basically owned this building, so it would take just a snap of his fingers for him to kick me out. Ugh, this was the worst.
お兄
Shut the fuck up! I swear her voice was so shrill it could shatter glass. STFU, net slang, short for shut the fuck up, used when someone is being extremely annoying. FTW, net slang, short for the win, used to express excitement about the subject. The banging just didn't stop, and since the metal walls were pretty thin, the sound echoed loudly all throughout the container. Nanami was well aware of that. In fact, that was exactly why she was doing it. In the end, I had no choice. I reluctantly removed the padlock and opened the door. I bet she's like a pretty popular girl, right?
やっと出てきた
You got like the nerdy shut-in brother and then probably like the popular younger sister.
生存確認
This baby-faced runt was my little sister. She was a year younger than
呼ん
me.
でるんだから返事くらいしてよねお兄死んじゃったかもって思ったじゃん
Of course, the first thing out of her mouth was bitching, and to make things worse, she was standing there with her hands on her hips, like the bratty little shit she was, a spitting image of irritating. Her existence brought me nothing but suffering.
うわ相変わらず部屋の中
I knew it. I
汚い
knew she was going to say something about
ちょっ
that.
とは片付けなよ
Nanami just waltzed right in without even asking. What the hell did she think she was doing? What, did she think she could get away with whatever she wanted just because she was my little sister? And to think there were people out there who seriously believed that little sisters were moe. I always wanted to tell those guys how much of an epic fail that was. Well, even though she was my sister, she certainly didn't look unsavory. Ugh, she had a lolly body type, so I could see why that might make her pretty damn popular in some circles. But as her older brother, I didn't care about that. I wasn't into her at all. As far as was concerned, she was downright repulsive, not to mention immature. Not to say I didn't like lollies, of course, just only 2D ones.
カビ草。お兄の部屋って相変わらず不潔。掃除しろっていつも言ってるじゃん。どうしてしないの？まあ、どうせ掃除してくれる彼女なんかいないだろうし。お兄ってズボラだからこうなるのは目に見えてるけどさ。こうなったらやっぱりナナが掃除しに来てあげるしかないかな。
だが断る。
Oh my gosh. But I refuse. I love it. But I refuse, a quotation from a popular manga about bizarre adventures. On the internet, it is frequently used frequently as a cool way to turn someone down. So I did make that mistake last episode. I was, you know, saying about how, like, oh, I wonder if, like, I'll catch any references to Steins Gate, but this actually came out before Steins Gate did. But there's still some things like, but I refuse, so it's probably things that they used from this game into Steins Gate, rather than the other way around.
なんでよ。
お前に部屋荒らされたくない。
きっとそれがわざわざ生存確認しに来てあげてる妹に言うセリフ？
Maybe things would change if you showed your older brother a little respect. And why should I be grateful you're checking in on me? I sure as hell didn't ask for that.
まったくなんでこんな面倒ばっかりかけさせる兄弟と血つながってるんだろう。たまに嫌になっちゃうよ。はあ、なんか喉乾いちゃった。飲み物もらうね。
Nanami walked right past me over to the mini fridge, once again acting like she owned the place. Alright. Let's go ahead and make a save here. Alright, I think I'm gonna try a negative one this time. This is like how she feels. This is how he feels about her, about his sister.
知らんがな。
しょうがないな。じゃあコーラもらうね。
Surprise, fucking surprise. She went ahead and did as she pleased. There's this thing called permission, you know. She grabbed a bottle of cola from the fridge, one I'd already drank from no less, and after only a second of hesitation, she cracked it open and gulped it down. Damn it, who the hell did she think she was, acting like such a goddamn princess? Sure, go ahead, drink so much cola that you destroy your stomach and get sent to the emergency room. Then I can finally relax and spend some time alone. Ugh, if only that would actually happen. Oh, no, so he's imagining it actually happening. Suddenly, Nanami let out a groan, and as soon as she did, she dropped the bottle of soda, splashing cola everywhere. It spilled all over the manga magazines and CDs I'd left down there. Don't mess up my room, I was about to say, but then I realized what was happening. Nanami's eyes had shot wide open, and her hands were pressed against her neck. She looked like she was in immense pain. Her mouth repeatedly flapped open and closed like a carp.
Nanami.
She was vomiting blood. Red blood, actually. It was closer to dark brown, splashed on the floor mixing with a spilled cola. Oh, wow. And then she lost her strength and collapsed. Her entire body convulsed as she writhed in agony. She clawed at her own neck with her fingernails. Her legs spasmed as she thrashed around on the floor. She didn't seem to care at all that this was causing her skirt to flip up, exposing her panties. This might seem a little in poor taste, but when I saw the way she was acting, I thought she looked just like a fish on a chopping board. I didn't know what to do, so I just covered my ears. But that didn't help. I could still hear my sister's dying screams. Before long, her face was completely covered in drool, blood, and tears, and her body finally stopped trembling.
Nanami.
I reluctantly tried calling out to her, but there was no response. She was just lying there, in a pretty compromising position. The smell of ammonia hit my nose. Had she pissed herself, or had I? Gently, ever so gently, I poked her shoulder. She didn't move a muscle. Although I was a little scared, I gathered the courage to bring my ear near her lips. She wasn't breathing. She was dead. Nanami was dead. It was like she'd been poisoned, the kind of thing you'd see all the time on TV. And that was when it hit me. I must have poisoned my own cola to kill Nanami. I was sure of it.
なぜ殺した？
Obviously, it'd been just another one of my delusions, but it still made me sick to my stomach. That whole thing had definitely been a bit much. Sure, Nanami could be really annoying, but that delusion had been way too graphic. I should have just left her at 1 HP, not fucking one-shotted her. Oh, I just noticed the, I noticed Saber on the figurine shelf. I wonder if there's going to be any other ones I recognize. Alright. One shot. Video game terminology to kill an entity with a single attack.
どうしたの？
After finishing her cola, Nanami shot me a confused look.
なんか顔色悪いけど。
I just shook my head a little.
ごめん。
何が？
とにかくごめん。
Even if it was just a delusion, I treated you horribly. I'm sorry. But that's only because I can't stand your bratty attitude. I hate it so much that I took it out on you inside my head. Would it kill you to understand that?
別に謝らなくてもいいのに。ミルクティーがないくらいでナナ怒んないよ。それになんだかんだ言ってコーラも好きだし。
Oh, wait, did she just drink all my cola? I take back my apology. Nanami doesn't deserve it at all. I hope she gets her stomach torn open and bleeds out.
もう帰
Ooh,
れよ。
let's hope that's not some foreshadowing. Maybe she'll be a future victim. You did your whole survival check thing, and now your job here's done, right? Why do you feel the need to barge in here every time?
お兄、冷たい。
Seemed like I'd managed to offend her somehow. She pursed her lips into a pout and glared at me. I was already done with her shit, though, so I looked away.
せっかく心配して様子を見に来てあげてるのに。お兄ってずっとここに引きこもって誰とも喋らずに一日を終えちゃうことだってあるんでしょ？女の子と話す機会だってどうせ全くないんだよね。
Shut up. Stop making fun of me, you stupid bitch. I'm not into 3D girls, so why would I ever bother talking to them?
言ってみればお兄と話す女の子はナナだけってことじゃん。だからさ、もっとナナのこと大事にしてよ。そしたら女の子との接し方もちょっとは分かってくるはずだし。
While she was nagging, Nanami picked up one of my figures, Hikari-tan from the Suicide for Hikari, and started staring at it. Damn it, don't touch my waifus without asking. If you leave even a single fingerprint on her, I will actually beat the shit out of you.
あと、お兄は自分のことにもっと気を使って。こんなお人形さんにうつつを抜かしてる場合じゃないよ。ナナはお兄の死体の第一発見者になんかなりたくないからね。
What the hell was she trying to imply? It felt like she'd been becoming more and more like Mom lately, which meant that she'd gotten even more fucking annoying. Shut the fuck up.
いいから帰れよ。
そんなに帰れ帰れ言わないでよ。お兄のバカ。まだこっちには用事が残ってるの。
Oh, she was getting more hysterical by the minute. If I made her any angrier, things would get out of hand. So chill out, me.
携帯買いに行こ
は？
What had she just said?
う。お父さんがそうしろって。お兄が携帯持てばいつでも生存確認できるじゃん。お金はナナが預かってきたから今から買いに行こうよ。今時携帯持ってない人なんていないよ。時代に取り残されちゃうよ。
Yeah, I guess this takes place in 2008, right? It's like cell phones aren't as ubiquitous as they are now, but like, yeah, I remember 2008, pretty much everybody did have cell phones. Shut up already, you teenage trend-chasing bitch. I'm not the one who lives under a rock here, you wrong-sider. The internet gives me all the information I need. Well, she was right about one thing. These days, it was normal for a high school student to have a phone, and I didn't have one. Of course, that was because I'd never use it. I didn't have anyone to call or text, and I didn't want to pay for something I wasn't going to use.
だから行こう。
Nanami put the figure back on the shelf and turned her attention back to me.
どうせお兄は 機種とかわかんないだろうから、ナナと同じ機種にしちゃいなよ。
As she said that, she took her own phone out of her bag and started showing it off like it was some precious heirloom. Oh man,
ほら
those...
これがナナの。色が可愛いでしょ。
I miss those. I miss the flip phones and you could have the little charms on them.
つ
Ugh.
いでだから、ストラップも同じのあげるよ。
うわ、なんという手抜きキャラ。
The character hanging from the phone strap was far from cute. It looked horrible. There was no way a professional had designed it. It looked like one of those shit-tier ugly cute characters or like one of those official government mascots.
手抜きじゃないもん。ゲロカイルンはこういうデザインなの。今すっごく流行ってるんだからね。はあ、女子高生の流行なんてお兄が知ってるわけないか。そういうとこを直せば少しは女子と会話成立すると思うよ、きっと。
God damn it. Just shut the fuck up already, you trend-chasing bitch. The fuck is this Garo Froggy shit? There's no way this thing is popular. Anyone with half a brain could tell you that. She didn't realize she was just being played by the media. It was honestly sad. I'm ready for him to call her a sheeple.
っていうか、今はゲロカイルンの話じゃなくて。いいから携帯買いに行こうよ。あ、別にお揃いがいいとか言ってるわけじゃないからね。家族で同じ機種だと基本料金が割引されるサービスがあるからだよ。家族で持ってないのはお兄だけなんだからね。
いらない。
なんで？お金はお父さんが出してくれるんだよ。
必要ない。
It would be a nuisance, if anything. If I had a phone, Mom would definitely call every day. And if I kept ignoring those calls, they'd keep sending little Miss Assassin Nanami over here to lay on the pressure. My family life would become even more of a living hell, and I'd have to start being way more careful as a result. I couldn't let that happen.
もう信じらんないよ、このバカ鬼。もう帰る。
ああ、そうしてくれ。
I opened the door for her to finally leave, but Nanami didn't budge an inch. She just shot her arms down to her sides, looking even more upset than before.
ほんとバカ、アホバカ鬼。駅まで送ってくれるとかしてよ。
嫌だね。
She'd never acted like this before. Why did she suddenly want me to walk her to the station? What was so special about today? Maybe the fact that there's murders happening around Shibuya, maybe she's a little nervous.
だって最近殺人事件とかで物騒じゃんさ。
Exactly.
こういう場合心配するのが兄弟ってもんでしょ。
Yesterday's events were resurrected in my mind once again, if only for a second. I frantically shook my head trying to get that gruesome scene out of my mind, and I just barely managed to.
どうでもいいし。
Either way, it wasn't like the NewGen murderer was twisted enough to attack some brat like Nanami.
ありえない。ナナが死んでもいいって言うんだ。
Nanami was tearing up. It seemed like my words had really gotten to her. Hoo-hoo-hoo, serves you right. Maybe you should think twice about disturbing my peace and quiet next time. This is just my own way of taking a little revenge for once. Get fucked. This guy is insufferable.
バカ、死んじゃえ。お兄なんか猟奇的に殺されちゃえ。
After spitting those parting words at me, Nanami pushed past me and ran away as fast as she could. It'd be wild if, like, we just got introduced to her and then she just died, like she actually was the next victim. It seemed like the storm had finally passed. The room grew peaceful and quiet once again. This was how things should always be around here. My own perfect little world where stupid bullshit wasn't allowed. I sat down in front of my PC, shaking my mouse a little to clear the Seroton screensaver. I tried to take a sip of the cola bottle on my desk, but it was empty.
しまった。これ、ナナミがさっき飲んだやつだ。
Oh god, I just had an indirect kiss with my little sister. I'm gonna puke. Maybe if she was a little more charming, it would have been the kind of eroge-like situation I could fap to. But with that horrible personality, no chance. If anything, it'd only make me more flaccid. I put the cap back on the bottle, then threw it at the big garbage can in the corner of my room. But it didn't go in the bag, instead bouncing off the wall and rolling under my bed. Well, whatever. Anyway, time to dive straight back into ESO. I just wanted to forget about the annoying real world ASAP. But it wouldn't last long. Just one day later, my immersion would be broken once again. My mental state had been on the up and up lately, but the moment I stepped outside, it all came crashing back down again. Why did I have to go to school today? It was so early. I bet he's gonna run into the pink-haired girl that was at the scene of the crime. I mean, she was wearing the uniform. She knew his name. But it wasn't like I could just take the day off. If I did, my minimum attendance chart would get thrown off, and then I wouldn't be able to graduate. I was the one insisting on going through with it, but I still couldn't help but complain. As I approached the wealthy district of Matsunami, I finally realized I had been feeling a gaze for a while now. But this wasn't the usual god's gaze. I didn't feel any shivers on the back of my neck. As I turned the corner, I took a quick, tiny glance behind me, and I caught a glimpse of a girl wearing a sume uniform. No way. Was it the demon from yesterday? I instantly lost my composure. An extreme amount of tension overtook my body, and my walking became stilted. A moment ago, it was a quiet morning like any other, but now it felt like the entire world was out to get me. I could faintly hear the sound of birds chirping atop the phone lines, and I could also hear music from the morning news playing in nearby homes. In a peaceful scene like this, where crime would seem totally out of place, I came close to imagining myself getting brutally murdered. Okay, I needed to calm down. It wasn't like I'd clearly seen her face or anything, and there was nothing strange about seeing Sume students walking behind me. We were headed for the same destination, after all. I'd be fine. Even though school was a straight ahead, I decided to take a hard right. I was worried about what could be behind me, but I desperately suppressed the urge to turn around. I needed to keep my cool and act natural. My heart was pounding, but I kept walking. It continued for about a minute or so, till I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I slowly turned around. Oh, that's not her. That's someone else. We made eye contact for a second, but I panicked and turned back around. When he said the demon from yesterday, I thought he meant his sister. It looked like his sister for a second just because of the long blonde hair, but why was she following me? His path was obviously the long way to school. That meant she had to be tailing me. Either way, I'd never seen her before. She definitely wasn't the demon from yesterday, that was for sure. She was wearing glasses, and the demon girl hadn't been. That fact alone was enough to calm me down. I decided to just head straight for school. I'd have to skip my routine breakfast at the park because of it, but oh well. To me, you're just some background character, pedestrian 1 or girl A, right? Literally, like, basically saying they're NPCs. So stay out of my way, goddammit. After I entered the school, girl A disappeared. I'd expected her to continue tailing me, but instead she turned and headed toward the third-year classrooms. Maybe she was never tailing me in the first place. Maybe I was just overthinking it, but still, it was definitely weird that she'd taken the same detour that I had. Did she hate me for some reason? Had I done something to piss her off? I didn't think so. No, I couldn't have. I hardly ever went to school, and when I did, I tried to keep my presence very minimal. So then what the hell was she trying to accomplish? Somehow I'd managed to make it through the torture known as school. On my way back, I made my usual stop at Cafe. I took my seat in room 37. The nearby rooms were normally always empty, but surprisingly, that wasn't true today. There was someone in room 36. Their door was closed, but the light from the desk lamp leaked through the cracks. I couldn't help but click my tongue when I entered my room. Having someone sitting nearby posed a bit of a problem. Whenever I did things like chatting online, I had the tendency to talk to myself sometimes. Well, whatever. Time to just ignore it and log into ESO already. As long as I made a conscious effort to stay quiet, it shouldn't really be an issue. I do find that, like, the more you're alone, the more you kind of talk to yourself without realizing it. Irritated, I slammed my hands down on the keyboard. It'd only been 2 hours since I started playing, and I was already this close to throwing myself off a cliff. This guy's so dramatic. The people I partied with today were total noobs. I've been trying my best to help them, but one of them went all Leroy Jenkins and just died repeatedly. Then the other one was a mage, but he didn't cast any healing spells at all. As a result, we just kept getting full party wiped over and over again. And yet, instead of figuring out why it was happening, all they ever did was continue to piss and moan in the chat. Fuck these shitty players. Finally just lost it. I proceeded to PK one of them, steal all their items, and instantly escape to another area. Everything Neinhard couldn't do. Lieslots. I don't know how to say that name. Lieslots? Lieslote? I'll call her Lise. Lise could do without a second thought. This was exactly what I came all the way to At Cafe for. Finally feeling a bit better, I breathed a sigh of relief and went to go grab a drink. At Cafe had a bunch of all-you-can-drink soda fountains in the reception area. And related to that was the only bad thing about room 37. It was kind of far away from the reception area. When I left my room, the door to room 36 was open. Naturally, in order to make my way to the front, I had to go past it. Obviously, it's a girl, because of the little keychains or the little straps on there. It's probably the girl that was following him. I casually took a peek inside as I walked past, but there was nobody in there. Come to think of it, I had heard someone get up a moment ago. She's probably going to be getting a drink too. And although there was no one there, I saw a bag on the ground next to the reclining chair. It looked like a school bag, and there were a few toy straps hanging from it. They were Gero Froggies, like the one Nanami had shown me yesterday. There were 3 of them in total. I guess they really were popular. Well, whatever. It wasn't like I cared either way. Besides, if the person came back and caught me staring, they might have taken me for a pervert or a thief. Realizing that, I decided to just go get my drink. However, right as I went to leave, my eye caught a glimpse of the text on their monitor, and I froze. All things NewGen, and if that wasn't enough, it was written in the most sickening font, as if it were trying to freak me out. Comic Sans. NewGen. I'd been deliberately avoiding any and all info about those cases. I really didn't want to know anything more about them, and as long as I kept avoiding them, I could tell myself that they had nothing to do with me. No, forget about that. More importantly, the customer next door to me was looking at a site, lining out everything about NewGen. Was it just a coincidence, or did it mean something? For a moment, the face of the demon girl flashed through my mind, sending goosebumps across my entire body. I shook my head violently, trying to force those horrible thoughts away. I was just overthinking it. Yeah, I had to be. Nobody was out to get me. I was just being paranoid. NewGen was pretty much all the media talked about lately. By this point, anyone would be interested in it. That was all it was. Yep, no doubt about it. Anyway, I should just go get my drink already, then get back to business. I quickly placed my cup under the dispenser and pressed the cola button. Delicious, ice-cold cola started pouring out. It was getting dark outside, which meant this place was going to get really crowded soon. There were already a few customers standing by the front desk, waiting to be shown to their rooms. And the darker it got, the more people would show up. In about an hour or so, all the rooms surrounding room 37 would fill up. Once that happened, it'd be time for me to head home. I took my cup and headed back toward my seat. On the way, I casually glanced down the hall towards the bathroom. That's when... Yep, of course. I saw a girl's figure disappear into the corridor. She'd been wearing a sume uniform and had glasses on her face. I recognized her. It was the same girl that had been tailing me this morning. Girl A. I thought I might have been mistaken, so I hid behind some bookshelves and looked toward the corridor for a while, but she never showed up again. It must have just been my imagination. Yeah, it had to have been. I'd only seen her for half a second after all. This place was typically swarming with sume girls, and plenty of them wore glasses. But what if it had been Girl A? If she was here, what would that mean? Was it just a coincidence, or has she followed me? I was starting to get a little scared. I left the cafe and started rushing back to my base. In the end, my anxiety had been too much to handle, and I'd left almost immediately after I saw the girl. I wanted to get home as soon as possible, but the crowded sidewalks were slowing me down. I was feeling sicker and sicker by the minute. I hated crowds. I always felt like people were watching me and snickering. A red pedestrian signal stopped me in my tracks. As I waited for the light to change again, I couldn't help but take a quick look around. I didn't see Girl A anywhere. As soon as I reached the top of Dogenzaka, walking got a lot easier. Usually I would just take the least crowded way back, but... After what had happened 2 nights ago, I figured I should stick to the main streets, just to be safe. I was stuck at a red light again, so I took another look behind me, but Girl A was still nowhere to be found. The girl I'd seen at Ad Cafe might have been a different person after all. Feeling a bit relieved, I let my tense shoulders relax a little, then turned back around. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's try... Let's try negative. I like the negative ones. What does that say about me? Shocked, I took a step back. On the other side of the crosswalk, standing among the crowd waiting for the light to change, was the girl. And to make matters worse, the gaze beyond those glasses was clearly pointed straight at me. She didn't even try to look away. Her eyes were so intense, it was as if they were urging me to do something. Right then, her glasses flashed white. Maybe they were reflecting the headlights of passing cars. Then I heard a sound. Her lips twisted into a curve, forming a smile that seemed closer to a sneer. Even though we were so far apart, even though there were so many people around, the girl's soft laugh reached my ears, clear as day. If I hadn't heard her so clearly, I would have thought she was simply exhaling. She laughed again, and then she suddenly rolled up the hem of her skirt. Oh. Oh, countless shining objects fell to the ground and scattered every which way. If it was a positive one, I feel like it would have been more pervy. They looked like crosses. Images of the stakes from the crucifixion incident flashed inside my mind. Her expression looked completely insane. Only her lips were smiling. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her cheeks twitched erratically. She then shoved through the crowd and leapt onto the crosswalk despite the fact that the pedestrian sign was still red. What was she thinking? Is she going to get hit by a car? I cowered in fear. I thought about running, but I couldn't move an inch. My legs were practically rooted to the cement. I couldn't even speak. The girl was drawing closer. She was crossing the road, gripping a cross-shaped stake in her hand. Stay back. I made that plea in my head when... Oh man, Truck Kun shows up and takes care of the problem for him. He seems to have his delusion seem to center around women getting violently killed. Girl's A body was sent flying by an oncoming truck. Screams resounded around me. The crowd was blocking my view, so I couldn't see what had happened to the girl. But I could tell. She was dead. There was no doubt about it. She was dead. She was lying in a heap on the street, covered in blood, like some kind of sopping wet, tattered dish rag that was just begging to be thrown away. Thank God, I thought instinctively. Not that I was proud of myself for thinking that way. I suddenly snapped out of it. I was swamped in a sickly cold sweat. The pedestrians had just been screaming in shock, but now they were calmly waiting for the pedestrian signal to change. There was no truck anywhere in sight. And that girl with the glasses was still on the other side of the street, staring at me just like she'd been doing the entire time. Had that been just a delusion? The pedestrian signal turned green. All the pedestrians started crossing at once. I couldn't move, and Girl A didn't move either. She didn't laugh, nor did she roll up her skirt. Nothing like that. She just stood there, staring me down. We were the only ones standing still, as if time had frozen for just the two of us. Why was she not crossing the street? Why was she just standing there? It was strange. Really, really strange. I needed to stay away from her. I should just run. I'll just run straight home. Run. Whipping my weak, withering heart into shape, I broke into a sprint. I ran back down Dokanzaka, trying to put as much distance between me and Girl A as I could. On the way, I turned to enter a back alley. And right as I did, I crashed into something and toppled over. Pain shot through my entire body. I groaned, not fully understanding what had just happened. The pain was so bad I could hardly stand. Looking up, I saw a big motor scooter lying on the ground. That must have been what I'd run into. I gritted my teeth and tried to force myself to my feet, but my legs just weren't able to hold me up. Well, it didn't seem like I'd broken any bones, at least.
大丈夫ですか?
Before I knew it, Girl A was right in front of me. She was peering into my face, eyes full of concern. What the hell was up with this girl? My body wouldn't move. As pathetic as it sounds, I was scared shitless. I had no idea what to do. My plan had been to catch a train ride to Shinsen and get home that way, but now I was starting to regret my life choices.
怪我してませんか?
Girl A asked me timidly. Was she acting all worried so I dropped my guard? You won't fool me. I won't fall for your tricks, you 3D wench.
なんなんだよ。
え？
ついてくるなよ。僕に何の用だ。
Panicking, I lashed out at Girl A, who just stood there in surprise. I tried scuttling backward to make some distance, but I was still flat on my ass. If I didn't get away from her, she'd reach into her jacket, pull out a knife, and jump me. That was my thought process, anyway. That gruesome scene flashed through my mind over and over. All I could think was, that's how I'll end up. The girl hung her head, looking a little hurt.
あの、あなたが急に走り出して様子を見に来たら倒れてたので心配で。でも今は用事とかあるわけじゃないんですが、その、えっと、
She didn't want anything from me? What? That didn't make any sense.
じゃあなんで付きまとってくるんだ。
それは、
She was getting flustered. I just couldn't get over how suspicious she was acting.
私、楠ゆあって言います。
What if he just kept calling her Girl A even after learning her name? Nobody had asked her to, but she suddenly started introducing herself anyway.
実は、あなたのこと、一目見て、なんとなく存在が気になって、それで、つい。
What, she just instinctively started stalking me? The girl, whose name was Yua, apparently kept lowering her gaze as she talked.
ごめんなさい。
She bowed her head vigorously. There's no way. That was the only thing on my mind. Taking another look at her, this Yua girl was pretty cute. I had to give her that much at least. But that was exactly why I couldn't trust her. 3D girl? Who wanted to interact with me? With good intentions? What kind of eroge was this? My whole life, nobody had ever said anything like that to me. There was no way I could take her confession seriously. It was just way too out of left field. The funny thing is, if this was in one of his games, this would just be par for the course, but like, this doesn't happen in real life. What, did she think I'd be jumping for joy or something? Did she forget she'd been stalking me until just now? Sure, that kind of thing might work in the 2D world, but in real life, it was a certified boner killer. Also, this whole situation was really embarrassing. All I wanted to do was get out of here ASAP. Just talking to her made me anxious. 3D really was total dog shit.
僕は三次元に興味はないよ。
え？
いや、め、め、め、
I always stuttered when I tried to say something harsh. But I had to be clear. Don't follow me anymore. I don't like it.
迷惑だよ。付きまとわないでよ。
すいません。
She sure looked disheartened. Maybe she'd actually meant it. No, don't fall for it. You can't trust anything about 3D women. You can only trust 2D. You can trust Seraton far more than this harlot.
もうついてこないでね。僕帰るから。
As I mumbled incoherently, I tried as hard as I could to stand up, but I struggled. My body was still hurting all over the place. My collarbone in particular was being a real bitch. The pain was making me feel kind of dizzy. I might have hit my head when I'd fallen down earlier. I almost fell over again, but Yua caught my hand and stopped me.
怪我してるんですね。手貸します。
I tried really hard not to make eye contact. I could feel my face turning bright red. She'd definitely make fun of me if she noticed, so I turned away and forcefully shook her hand off. My mind was a total blank. I'd hardly, if ever, touched a female before. Except family members, of course. My heart was beating out of my chest. So if this does give the option to, like, romance characters, it's funny because I find maybe he'll change, maybe he'll become a better person throughout this, but I find him so unlikable that I almost feel like if I decide to romance a girl, that it's almost like I'm punishing her. It's like I actually don't want to romance any characters because I don't want the girls to end up with my character because he's such a jerk.
お家まで送ります。あなたが怪我したのは私が付きまとっちゃったせいですから。
He's probably like, that's the last thing I want is for you to know where I live.
だから送らせてください。
I felt really happy when Yua asked me that. I wasn't really used to being treated kindly by others. Every other 3D woman I had interacted with before was utterly vile, but this girl, I was actually starting to warm up to her a little bit. But I didn't have the courage to look her straight in the eye. I mean, she had to be stalking me. She also might have been related to that demon girl, and I didn't want to die. All sorts of thoughts flew through my head, but I couldn't focus on any single one of them. My mind was a total blur.
あの、お家どこですか？
深セン。
深セン？
I nodded before instantly regretting it. Why the hell had I told her that? Was I expecting something to happen if I did? This had to be one of my delusions. Maybe karma would put me on a lucky streak just so it could come to beat me down later. You see that cliche all the time in anime. This must have been some sort of death flag. Death flag, a metafiction term. When a character triggers a death flag, they have said or done something that foreshadows their death. A common way to trigger a death flag is to make a promise on the eve of a climactic battle. For example, when the war is over, I'm gonna get married. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Before I knew it, Yua was trying her best to prop me up with her shoulders. Her soft body was tightly pressed against mine, and I could smell a sweet scent coming from her long hair. This couldn't be real. There was no way a 3D girl was being this nice to me.
歩けますか？
I nodded in
じゃ
response.
行きましょう。
Her voice almost sounded nervous, and with my head pointed down at the ground, I slowly started to walk. She'd done so much for me at this point, I couldn't turn her down or shake her off anymore. I was out of options. I just had to let her do as she pleased. Leaning on her delicate shoulder for support, the two of us got moving. Neither of us said a word until we reached the building where my base was located. After all, there was no way I could hold a half-decent conversation with a girl, let alone one I didn't know. I knew that the second I'd bring up anime or video games, she'd automatically go, "Ugh, what a freak," just like every other 3D girl. She wouldn't even bother listening or trying to understand. From my point of view, there was just no point in talking to bitches like that. See, I feel for him for like a moment when he talks about like he's rejected by women, and it's like a defense mechanism for him to like, I'll reject them before they can reject me. And then he says things, and I'm like, God damn, man.
ここでもういいから。
That grumble was about all I could muster, and I looked at Yua to make sure she understood it. She gave me a gentle nod in response, then removed her arm from under me. I was still a little unstable, but I managed to stay upright.
やっぱりお部屋までついていきましょうか。
It'd be funny if she actually was like a creepy stalker, like she's like, just gonna find out where you live at. I completely ignored her suggestion and walked towards the lobby. Well, I say lobby, but it was really just a narrow entryway to the elevator hall. Still, the moment I lifted my foot to start climbing the small staircase leading up to it, a sharp pain ran through me and I nearly fell over again.
大丈夫ですか？
Yua rushed over to support me. Damn it, why was she still
やっ
here?
ぱり部屋まで送ります。絶対送りますから。
She sounded almost desperate. I hated to admit it, but Yua had been a huge help, and in the end, she'd taken me all the way back to my base. To get there, first we had to go all the way up to the 8th floor, then take a steep flight of emergency stairs up to the roof. In my current state, there was no way I could have possibly managed that alone. Yua wasn't strong in any sense of the word. She was very clearly running on fumes, and yet she had helped me up the stairs as if her life depended on it.
こんなところに住んでるんですね。
Yua was left speechless when she saw my container house. No surprise there. Normal people probably would never believe someone could live in a container.
なんか憧れます。
え？
アウトローな感じがしていいですよね。こういうのって。
I never thought she'd say something like that. Was she just trying to flatter me or something? You won't fool me, wench. I will never fall for a 3D girl's tricks. With Yua still propping me up, we walked up to the container door, removed the padlock, and stepped inside. Let's see if she still feels that way when she goes inside. I was finally back. Today was another total catastrophe. This is why you really couldn't beat staying
真っ
indoors.
暗ですね。電気のスイッチはどこに？
Did she really not have any shame just coming into my room like this? I mean, to be fair, she had brought me all the way here on her shoulder. But I really didn't want her seeing the rest of the room if I could help it. I mean, I had dozens upon dozens of figures lined up on my shelves, piles of eroge boxes on my bed, and trash all over the floor.
もういいから、話して。
After I said that, I waited for Yua to let go of me, but she didn't
いい
budge.
か、すごく散らかって。じゃなくて、歩きにくいと思うんですけど、絶対危ないです。ソファーまで行きましょう。そこで話しますから。
In the end, I just kept on doing whatever she said. The couch was covered in CDs and magazines, but Yua quickly cleared them out of the way, as quickly as she could while still holding me up. As soon as she was finished, I sat right down. And she's just so sweet and caring. Wait, what am I saying? I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not.
平気ですか？
The two of us were all alone in the room. It was almost pitch black, save for the tiny bit of moonlight shining through the open doorway. As a result, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Yua had on her face. On the bright side, though, hearing a girl breathing in the dark was pretty hot. Come to think of it, it was the first time anyone aside from my little sister had ever seen my room, which meant it was the first time I'd had an actual girl up here. If this were a game, I would have tripped some sort of flag. After that, soon enough, the mood would turn romantic, and before we knew it, we'd be all over each other. That said, I wasn't expecting anything like that. Reality was complete and utter shit. It was nothing like the 2D world. And besides, this Yua girl wasn't normal. She was a stalker, so yeah. Wait, why was she still here? How long was she planning on staying? Her job was done, so shouldn't she be leaving now? That was when it hit me. Wait. No, was her plan to get me somewhere alone in an isolated spot, then do something horrible to me?
明かりのスイッチは。
パソコンの。
パソコン？
The only light source in the room was the desk lamp by my PC. I wanted to tell her to turn the lamp on, but I just couldn't get the words out.
そうか。デスクライトですね。
Yua carefully made her way over to my computer desk, avoiding all the garbage by her feet, and turned on the lamp. And then there was light. The darkness had put all sorts of embarrassing ideas and delusions in my head, and now that I could see Yua's face clearly, all those fantasies made it hard to look at her in the eye without getting even more embarrassed than I already was. Panicked, I couldn't get any words out, so I just kept my head down. She'd shouted so suddenly that goosebumps shot across my skin. Her gaze was pointed straight at the Seraton figure. Oh, I bet she's gonna be like, I love that show too. The Seraton figure next to my monitor who was striking her favorite sexy pose.
これって、プラチューのセイラちゃんですよね。
知ってるの？
はい。プラチューは大好きで、毎週見てます。セイラちゃんがお好きなんですね。私もヒロインの中では彼女が一番好きなんですよ。衣装も可愛いですし。
Her voice was full of joy. She was clearly speaking genuinely. There was no way that she was just trying to trick me. Who'd have thought? Could Yua be a... Fujoshi. Term for female otaku with a particular interest in yaoi or works of fiction that depict homosexual relationships between men. Does not apply to female otaku as a whole. Huh, I wonder where he gets that from, her liking this show, which seems to be about, like, a female character. Maybe she just liked anime.
フィギュアって言うんですよね。ちょっと見せてもらってもいいですか？すみません。ずうずうしいこと言っちゃって。
Kind of rude for him to assume just because she's into anime that she must be into yaoi. She bowed repeatedly, clearly flustered.
見ていいよ。
Well, I couldn't say I didn't enjoy her laying the praise on my waifu, so I might as well be a little nice to her.
本当ですか？ありがとうございます。
Yua took Sarah in her hand and started inspecting her closely.
それは山陽堂版の覚醒前バージョンなんだ。セーラフィギュアはいくつか種類が出てるけど、最初に出たやつ。
へえ。
あまりクオリティは高くないよ。顔とか微妙に崩れてるし、ポーズも平凡すぎてあんまりエロくないし。 でも服の胸元部分をキャストオフできるのは今のところそれだけなんだ。
Oh boy, dude. Maybe don't say that part. Cast off a specification that allows for nudity or semi-nudity in figures by designing certain parts, such as clothing, to be easily removed. The specification originated in 2006 and has only gotten more and more popular since.
胸元？
ちなみに僕はセーラフィギュアは4種類全部揃えてるよ。そっちの棚に制服バージョンとメイドバージョン、あと水着バージョンがある。
そんなに種類が。すごいですね。
一番評価が高いのはメイドバージョンなんだけど、個人的には水着バージョンも悪くないよ。
そうなんですか。見てみたいですね。でもちょっと暗くて。
もうすぐアルファから待望の覚醒後バージョンが出るんだけど、これはかなりクオリティ高そうなんだ。キャストオフも胸元だけじゃなくてほぼ全身可能になっているし、表情もポーズも質感も言うことなしだね。
Oh boy, it feels like he could have just been generic about stuff. I guess it's a thing, right? He's not used to talking with people face to face, especially girls. Probably conversations like this with like his online buddies would be no problem. Like, not weird at all, but this is so
あとはカラーさえ
cringy.
バッチリなら今年発売されたフィギュアの中でも MVP 候補だよ。
アルファ？
メーカーだよ、フィギュアの。
ああ、なるほど。
Suddenly realizing what I'd done, I clamped my mouth shut. I'd been rambling on for way too long. I'd gone off on a tangent about goddamn anime girl figures, removable pieces, sexy poses. I bet I looked like a total idiot to Yua. I wanted to know what sort of face she was making, but I couldn't bring myself to look at her. Either way, though, it was obvious. She must have thought I was total human trash. I started panicking. My heart was beating out of my chest. I tried to avert my gaze as far away as I could. But that's when she called out to me, and I reflexively turned back to look at her. Her expression, it wasn't actually full of horror and disgust like I'd expected.
さっき言っていた戦闘バージョンとかメイドバージョンも見せてもらっていいですか？
うん。そっちの棚に。
I was totally baffled. There wasn't a hint of anything on her face other than a wide, bright smile.
わあ、すごいですね。こんなにたくさん。
In fact, her eyes were sparkling as she looked at my shelves full of figures. No way. Were there actually 3D women that weren't disgusted by this stuff? It must have been a 1 in a billion chance, but I suppose there were billions of people in the world.
あ、メイドセイラちゃんってこれですね。ふむふむ。アニメの印象とはちょっと違うけど、すごく可愛いです。下着までちゃんと作り込んであるんだ。こういうの実物で見たのは初めてですけど、いいですね。私も買ってみようかな。
だったら覚醒後バージョンを予約した方がいいよ。あれは絶対おすすめだから。
そうですね。あなたの話を聞いていたら、その覚醒後バージョンは本気で欲しくなりました。覚醒後って12話のあのシーンのことですよね。
よく知ってますな、お主。かなりのマニアですな。
はい、好きですから。特にあの時の覚醒シーンは毎日録画したものを見返してます。
あのシーンって演出と作画宮地なんだ。だからクオリティ高くて当然。
宮地？
そういう神クリエイターがいるんだ。あの人の演出はマジで神だよ。アットちゃんの実況版でも神来たってなるし。
It's funny, as soon as he talks about something that he's interested in, he's not stuttering anymore. He's just like, he just goes off without thinking.
そうなんですか。
He actually sounds like a regular person.
すごく知識が豊富なんですね。私、スタッフが誰かなんてまるで気にしてませんでした。
監督と演出と脚本はチェックしとくといいよ。特に新作なんかはそれを調べるだけで内容の良し悪しが大体予測できるし。
わかりました。今度からそうしてみますね。
As Yua said that, she turned to face me with another lovely smile. He's like, maybe 3D girls aren't so bad after all. I'd made a girl smile. I never thought I'd see this kind of eroge stuff happening in real life, let alone to me. Usually 3D women, including my little sister, only ever smiled when they were making fun of me. There had to be some kind of a catch. There was just no other explanation. I couldn't forget what Saratana told me. Till then, you can't trust anyone. Don't listen to anything that anyone says.
え、
こんなこと聞いていいかどうかわからないんですけど。
何？
Yua got all shy out of nowhere. She was looking down and avoiding eye
聞
contact.
かせてもらってもいいでしょうか。あなたのお名前。
名前？
Now that she'd mentioned it, Yua had introduced herself to me, but I'd never returned the favor.
西条匠。
I was a little embarrassed, so I ended up weakly mumbling it out.
西条匠くんですね。何年生？
あ、2年。
私は3年。私の方が年上さんですね。
Oh, alright. I think we're gonna make a positive one, right? Like, he's been having a positive. I'm kind of curious what the negative one is, but we've been doing enough negative ones. Let's do a positive one, because it's been a positive experience so far for him. Oh man, I was getting dizzy from how moe that sounded. Could Yua be the kind of older sister type? Or be the kind older sister type? Damn it, trying to seduce me and shit. This woman was dangerous. She must be up to something.
それで西条くんにお願いがあるんです。
A request? Seriously?
私あなたのことが好きなんです。ずっと西条くんのこと見てました。もう見てるだけじゃ嫌なんです。
Oh boy. Yua's face turned bright red, and right after her sudden confession, she abruptly started undressing. I might have to censor some stuff. Oh boy. I was so bewildered I could barely bring myself to peek at her, but when I did, I noticed she wasn't just taking off her top, but also her skirt. Her underwear flickered in and out of sight from beneath the hem of her blouse. It was black. Being so bold, despite being clearly embarrassed. Sure, it was a huge turn-on for me, but things were happening so suddenly my mind could hardly keep up. It took all of my strength just to swallow the saliva that had built up in my mouth. Next, Yua started fiddling with the buttons on her blouse. She was undoing them one by one, from top to bottom. Then, almost as if trying to tease me, she slowly, ever so softly, dropped her blouse to the floor. Ah! This is... I wonder if this is in reference, right? Because I said a blue swimsuit with glasses, and she's wearing glasses. For some reason, underneath it, she was wearing a competition swimsuit. It was a high-leg swimsuit, and it was skin-tight. With the way it pressed in on her body, a bit of her thighs spilled out over the edges. So those dark-colored panties I'd caught glimpses of earlier were actually a swimsuit. How did a girl this timid have boobs this huge? And another thing, she didn't take her knee-high socks off. GJ Yua, that's the right choice. Good job, I guess? Yeah, good job. Used on the internet as an expression of admiration for a job well done. But...
私のこと好きにしてください。めちゃくちゃにしていいですから。
I was speechless. It was pretty strange for a 3D girl to say all this stuff to a guy she had just met. No sane girl would do that. Sure, it was sexy, but it wasn't even remotely moe. My sense of reason threatened to completely shatter right then and there, and I struggled desperately to keep it contained. While I was lost in my usual delusions, Yua suddenly had a huge fall and landed flat on her rear. She rubbed her butt while on the verge of tears.
すみません。CD を踏んづけちゃったみたいです。ケース割れたかも。本当にごめんなさい。私、きちんと片付けますから。
いいよ。
Just get out of here already. You've done enough. And what the hell was that request you mentioned earlier? Yua started cleaning up the trash and CD cases lying all over the floor, even though I told her she didn't have to. She looked so apologetic it almost made me feel guilty, like I had done something wrong.
じゃあ、足の踏み場だけでも、確保させてください。すいません。その後で、お願い言います。 ますから。
But the way she just instantly started cleaning up, and thoroughly at that, she reminded me somewhat of my mom. Not caring in the slightest about what may cause problems for other people, rushing straight into doing whatever she pleased, you know, the typical meddler. In that case, I should probably start helping her, shouldn't I? We'd both reach for a piece of trash at the same time, our hands would touch, and we'd both say, ah, and we'd stare into each other's eyes, just soaking in the glow of the moment, right? Wrong. The fuck do you think this is? Some kind of rom-com? No way in hell was I helping. While in the middle of piling up magazines, Yua suddenly stopped. Her back was turned, so I couldn't tell what she'd just picked up.
いえ、気にしないでください。
What was she getting so nervous about? Something about it made me suspicious. Come to think of it, she was essentially ransacking my room at this point. What if she was trying to steal something? Maybe she was thinking I had so many figures I wouldn't notice if one went missing? But little did she know she was dead wrong. I perfectly memorized every single waifu on that shelf. If even a single one went missing, I'd be able to tell in a nanosecond.
フィギュアには触らないでね。
I'm trying to take a look. I saw a saber earlier. Oh, I see Ryder at the top. I'll have to see when they get closer, see if I recognize any other ones.
はい。いえ、違うんです。その、ブラチューの同人誌っていうんですか？それが落ちてまして、ちょっと中身を見てみたら。
My blood-tuned dojins. Shit, they're all porn.
すごかったので、びっくりしました。
勝手に見ないでよ。
すいません。
Yua began tidying up again, nervous as ever. Shortly after, she quickly cleared a space to sit down and then turned toward me.
それで、さっき言ったお願いですけど。
Finally, I gulped, then instinctively braced myself for
さ
impact.
っき言ったフィギュアの予約、一緒に行ってもらえませんか？私、そういうアニメショップみたいなところって今まで行ったことなくて。で、私、なんだかすごくぶしつけなお願いしてますよね。すいません。私のせいで西条くんは怪我をしたのに。
This was some dangerous territory. I couldn't afford to just blurt out an answer. On one hand, you and I had shared interests. Hell, she was even a fan of Sarah. She also seemed very interested in what I had to say, which meant she was someone I could get along with as an otaku. But on the other, it had to be some sort of trap. There was just no way in hell something like this, something so perfect, would actually happen to me in real life. It was an eroge cliche, nothing more. I couldn't let 3D corrupt me. Think, Takumi, think. What the hell could Yua's true goal be?
すいません。今のお願いは忘れてください。私、西条くんがいろいろ話してくれるのが、嬉しくて。
Yua sat there with her head hung low. Pretty much every 3D girl ever was insanely full of themselves, and meanwhile this girl was remarkably timid. And there was no way a 3D girl could be so pretty and have such a cute personality. Everyone knew that, meaning she had to be faking it. I'd turn her down, I'd gather all my strength, all the power vested in me as a man, and shoot her down. As Yua looked back up at me, I saw tears welling behind her glasses. Wait, was she crying? Was it because I wasn't saying anything? Had I just made her cry? Oh no, give me a break. What a life or death situation. I'd never experienced anything like this outside of video games. My heart was pounding out of my chest, was even starting to feel a little guilty. They say that women weaponize their tears, but only now was that really starting to ring true for me. Honestly, I had absolutely no clue how to deal with it. I was getting more and more nervous by the second. We can go together, I tried to say, but ultimately, I couldn't bring myself to. Because if I did, surely she would just say something like, ew, this dumbass actually took it seriously? What a freak. Call it a persecution complex, but that was how I felt. I just couldn't do
無
it.
理してくれなくていいです。私のわがままに西条くんを付き合わせるのは良くないですし。
Her eyes seemed even more wet than before. I saw a single tear dripping out from the corner of her eye.
行くよ。
言ってもらえるんですか？
I had no choice but to nod. I couldn't think of any other way to make her stop crying. Still, it felt like I was stepping right into a trap. Yua seemed incredibly relieved. She took a deep breath, took off her glasses, and wiped away her tears.
断られて当然だと思ってたのに。西条くん、ありがとうございます。
She was thanking me. It seemed like I'd been able to stop her from completely breaking down. Maybe I should be the one thanking her. Shit, how did I get myself into such a mess? Goddamn 3D women, you can never let your guard down around them.
行くとしたらいつがいいでしょう。
Hold on, where the hell had her sad-looking expression gone? Only a second had passed and she was already looking happy as a clam. Those really were crocodile tears, weren't they? If so, she should win a fucking Academy Award.
セイラちゃんの新しいフィギュアはもうすぐ発売なんですよね。
うん。きっとすぐに完売しちゃうだろうね。
だったら早めに行った方が良さそうですね。明日とか。
According to my schedule, I needed to go to school tomorrow. That made it 3 times total this week. Then the week after, I'd only have to go twice. I had a feeling that tomorrow was going to suck even more than usual. But I'd already told you I'd go with her. If I tried changing my mind now, she would start the waterworks all over again. Ugh, I really had no choice here, huh?
わかったよ。
I was incredibly reluctant, but still I agreed. Yua seemed happy to hear that. But she couldn't fool me with that face of
西
hers.
条くんは何組？明日放課後に迎えに行きますよ。
B 組。
2年 B 組ですね。じゃあ授業が終わったら待っててください。
I nodded quickly in response, hoping that would make her leave faster. Wait, I just made a promise to hang out with a girl? Is this a dream? A delusion? I pinched my cheek to test the theory. It definitely hurt.
それじゃあ長い間お邪魔しちゃってすいませんでした。足、もし痛かったらお医者さんに行ってくださいね。
うん。
I sat on the couch and watched Yua leave. She turned around and waved goodbye, then exited out the front door.
西条くん、また明日。
また明日だってさ。しかも手を振ったりして。
At least he didn't do that creepy laugh around her. I felt like I was about to melt with bliss, so I quickly stiffened back up.
あの女絶対僕に惚れてる。間違いないね。
Oh my goodness. Ugh.
ま、付き合うか付き合わないかは僕に選択肢があるわけだし、あの女を情け容赦なく振ってやるさ。
I love how he talks all tough as soon as she leaves.
お前は僕の女にふさわしくない。セイラよりいい女になって出直してこい。まあ、一生無理だけどな。何しろセイラは永遠の17歳だからな。みたいな。
There was no way any girl could ever be better than Seraton. I picked up the Sarah figure and rubbed her against my cheek, and Seraton couldn't have looked happier.
おっと、時間か。今のところテストに出るからな。ちゃんとノート書いておけよ。今日はここまで。起立。ねえ。
The math teacher, wait, what was his name again? Well, whatever. The teacher left the classroom and that was the end of classes for the day. Some students started chatting about where they go after school. Those who were in clubs gathered with their fellow members and headed for their club rooms. And the rest were just getting ready to go home ASAP. I was in the last camp. As soon as the bell rang, I was always the first to pack up and leave. But today, I stayed glued to my seat, trying to avoid eye contact with any of my classmates. My anxiety was killing me. After all, my date with Yua was very soon. Any normal, non-video obsessed person would have lost their mind, or would have been losing their mind to have a date with a girl planned. But this was me we were talking about, and I couldn't feel any more depressed. I love he just jumps back and forth between, like, when he was talking, be like, oh yeah, it's like, I can decide whether I want a relationship with that bitch, but I probably won't because, you know, it's my decision. She's not good enough for me. I couldn't relax at all. I was feeling physically sick. This would be the first time I'd ever gone on a date with a girl, so I had no clue what to do. Besides, would Yua even show up? Maybe she'd just been fucking with me yesterday, and she planned on standing me up. She was probably watching from the shadows right now, giggling at how gullible I was. Well, now that I thought about it, that honestly might be better than her actually showing up. Wait, did I really have to just sit around waiting? I mean, I could just blow her off and go home. Alright, it's settled. Time to head home. We were in different grades anyway, so if I just cancelled our date at the last minute, I'd never have to see her again for the rest of my life. Fully determined to follow through with that plan, I stood up.
Taku, nani shitten da?
Out of nowhere, my back fell victim to a hard slap. I knew who was behind me without even looking. The only guy in class who ever talked to me, none other than Misumi-kun. So I'm guessing that probably he was gonna show up and he's gonna be like, "Oh man, she's hot." It's like, and she's older. How did you like manage to let that happen?
お前帰らないのか？いつもならチャイムが鳴ると同時に消えるのによ。俺密かに匠の音速直帰って名付けてたんだぜ。
もう帰るよ。
誰か待ってるとか。
え？
How the hell did he know?
なんだよ、図星かよ。
どうして？
なんだかやけにそわそわしてたからな。教室の入り口をさっきから何度も気にしてるし。
He was good. Either way, I probably shouldn't say anything that would make me stand out too much. Don't you forget, Takumi. You've got to be invisible at this school. You've got to blend in. Be like air.
別に誰も待ってないよ。
そうか？だったら今の間はなんだよ。
それは。
Fuck, Misumi-kun wasn't a bad guy, but at times like this, he could get really fucking annoying. Take a hint for fuck's sakes. I know what the tip is, obviously.
西条くん
Yep, he's gonna be like, damn! Shivers ran down my spine. I slowly turned my head toward the voice. Yua was standing by the classroom door, looking apologetic. Oh, god damn it. Because of Misumi-kun, I'd lost my chance to escape.
おい、なんだりゃ？どういうことだ？
Misumi-kun looked unusually shocked. In fact, he was literally shaking. He put his arm around my shoulder and gave me a stern look.
おい、タク、どういうことか説明しろよ。お前の彼女か？
違うよ。
How many times have I told you, Misumi-kun, I'm not into 3D?
だったら何なんだよ。言っとくが、タクの姉ちゃんとかそういうオチは期待してねえからな。引きこもりのくせに何をどうやったらあんないい女と知り合えるんだ。
昨日急に付きまとわれて。
そりゃつまりあれか？逆難されたってことか？え？この。
He put his hand on his chin, pondering for a moment, and then he finally let me go.
そうか。世の中には物好きってのもいるんだな。けど、タクがまともな性癖を持ってたみたいで、少し安心したぜ。
性癖って、それに彼女とは別に何も。
そうか。頑張れよ、タク。
Misumi-kun wasn't taking me seriously at all. He just got all excited over his own assumptions and slapped my back even harder than before. At this point, he was just screwing with me.
安心しろって。お前の女を寝取ったりしねえから。
だからそういう関係じゃ。
ほら、さっさと行けよ。彼女、お待ちかねみたいだぜ。
Misumi-kun ordered me to move, so I stumbled over to Yua. Despite my best efforts, I hadn't been able to escape.
迎えに来たの迷惑でした？
いや。
Yes, you fucking are. I turned to look at Misumi-kun, but he just grinned and gave me the finger. Honestly, I couldn't tell whether he was trying to pick a fight or cheer me on. I couldn't deal with this shit any longer, so I decided to just hurry up and leave with Yua.
すいません。昨日会ったばかりなのに、こんなお願いをしてしまって。
いや。
I was so nervous. I was leaving school together with a 3D girl. Was I a normie now or what? It always felt like this was in a completely different world from mine. Normie, people who find happiness and fulfillment in the real world. Markers of a normie including having lots of friends, having a girlfriend or boyfriend, participating in club and or school activities, going to parties, etc. I never would have thought I'd get to experience something like this. But now I was feeling the intense pressure of Yua's silence. We were just walking side by side, not even talking, so why was this so stressful? And to top it off, I didn't really know who Yua was or what her goal was. Just what did she want from an otaku freak like me?
おとといの。
あ、いや、
She started talking to me out of nowhere, so I got surprised and that weird sound I just made just came out. Yua seemed really nervous. Her expression was so tense. She was older than me, so how was she still so innocent? How surprisingly moe. Then again, I probably wasn't the best person to be talking about innocence, since I could hardly manage more than a quick sidelong glance at her. I was too embarrassed to take a proper look at her face. I just couldn't do it.
おとといのブラチュー見ましたよね。
うん。
私、一箇所だけいまいちよくわからないところがあったんですけど、すすむくんがセイラちゃんのピンチに駆けつけてきて助けてくれますよね。でも、どうしてすすむくんはセイラちゃんが危ないってわかったのかなって。
あ、あれは、先週の回に伏線があったんだ。セイラの携帯が鳴ってるシーンが一瞬だけ挿入されてて、着信表示で進むの名前が出てる。
ああ、そういえばそんなシーンありましたね。
山田はそういう細かい伏線をあちこちに貼るのが好きなんだ。キンゴルでも似たようなことをやってた。
山田くキンゴ
いや、山田っていうのはブラチューの監督の愛称だよ。で、山田がブラチューの前に監督やってたアニメがキンゴル。
ル。へえ、じゃあ山田さんって有名な監督さんなんですね。
まあ、僕は好きな方かな。なんでかっていうと。
At least he didn't go off and I'd be like, oh, are you even a real fan? I'd been lecturing Yua about the various facets of anime when I realized we were already in front of Animate. Time flew by way faster than I had expected. I'd let myself get carried away and talked way too much. Well, it didn't help that Yua was such a good listener. She paid such close attention while I shared my wisdom. I couldn't help but want to tell her everything I knew, even though I knew I was falling right into her trap. All this, and yet I wasn't even good at talking. This was the first time I'd ever felt this way. I was talking out loud, but it felt like I was chatting online. It was a strange feeling.
なんだかドキドキしてきました。先に帰ったりしないでくださいね。
うん。
Yua only got more and more nervous as she went up and spoke to the store employee. It was clear that she was out of her comfort zone, but all I could do was just stand there and watch as she placed the pre-order for the post-awakening version Sarah figure. There weren't any opportunities to escape. Yua kept anxiously glancing back at me, so I couldn't budge an inch. Right after that, she even forced me to look around the store with her. Yua was looking all around with a big grin on her face, saying things like, wow, there's not enough money in the world to buy all these figures. But even in the face of all that enthusiasm, I just couldn't find it in me to smile back at her. McDonald's. So apparently Yua took the train to school, which meant I had to accompany her all the way to Shinsen Station. She might not look like it, but she was a devious one, all right. She always managed to get her way, all without making herself look even remotely selfish. Clever girl. Talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing. An archetype that refers to someone who is far more sinister than they may appear. They are often characterized by a black heart plagued with malicious thoughts, a large gap between their outward personality and actual personality, and a general sense of ill will towards others. It appears that there are some people who are attracted to these factors that are, for all intents and purposes, negative.
西条くんって携帯は持ってないんですか？
Once we'd reached the station, Yua suddenly asked me that question. A cell phone? I shook my head weakly.
持ってないんですか。それじゃ連絡が取れないですね。
連絡?
Why the hell would she want to stay in touch? Wait, what, was she going to demand I texted her about every little thing for the rest of my life?
でも西条くんパソコン持ってましたよね。私も持ってるからメールアドレスを交換しませんか？
どうして？
そのフィギュアの発売日に取りに行かなくちゃいけませんよね。 その時にまた一緒に。まだ一人でアニメ8に行く勇気はないから。
She was good.
それに
She was way too good.
私西条くんと
I knew she had her claws in me, but I just couldn't turn her down. If I did, I'd look like the bad guy.
もっと
3D was the scariest fucking thing in the world.
仲良くなりたいから。
How was she doing this? Was it just because I was bad at talking to people? Or was she just too good? Either way, Yua seemed intent on not leaving until she had my email. Yet, at the same time, I could sense a bit of unease behind those glasses of hers. I could practically feel my will to resist draining from my body. There were goosebumps all over my body, shivers running down my spine. But I couldn't run away and I couldn't turn her down. There was definitely something up with Yua, this aura she had. It wasn't normal. I couldn't really put into words exactly what it was that bothered me so much. But whatever it was, something wasn't right. Before I knew it, I'd torn out a scrap of notebook paper, written down my email address, and handed it to her. She took it, looking happy as could be, then quickly bowed her head and disappeared into the station. It felt like my soul had left my body. I just stood there completely dumbfounded. Even after 10 minutes passed, I couldn't move an inch. Alright, so what do you make of all this, of her? Because personally, I don't have the slightest clue. There's no way she doesn't have ulterior motives or something. Doesn't make any sense otherwise. Are you listening, Grim? What eroge is this? That night I decided to consult Grim about Yua. I figured I might as well. If I just kept my paranoia to myself, I wouldn't get anywhere. And there was the response I got. Well, it's not like I could blame him. First time I'd spoken with Yua, I reacted the exact same way. Stupid of me to think you'd be any help, Grim. Now wait, one fucking sec, you were being serious? You actually managed to raise a flag with someone? You really have a way of getting whatever you want, huh? Now, who said they weren't into 3D again? It's not like that, dude. Grim's reaction was almost identical to Misumi-kun's. Were they the same person or something? It'd be funny if he actually, like Misumi, like the Playboy, was actually into, like, this online game. Okay, well, for a turbo virgin like you, Nineheart, now that you have a girl, it should be easy to leave otakudom behind and lose your B-card. You gotta be careful, though. You start talking to her about your swimsuit fetish, she'll dump your ass and use common sense. What's wrong with a school swimsuit fetish? This guy's hopeless. I better do something quick. Okay. This guy's hopeless. A quotation from a popular manga about death notes, spoken by the protagonist in reference to his foolish accomplice. The full quote is, "This guy is hopeless. I'd better do something quick," used to express exasperation. Oh, out of nowhere, I heard Seraton's voice. That was my custom email notification sound. I casually went to check my email, and the sender's name was... Kusunoki Yua.
うわ、早速来た。
I got an email. Just now. Whoop, there it is. This was the first time I'd ever gotten an email from a 3D girl. I gulped, then clicked to open it. Yua's usual elegance and purity shone through the email, and by using a lot of emoticons, she gave it a bit of a friendly tone. Alright, good evening. This is Kusunoki. I sent this email as soon as I was able to. I would appreciate if you added me to your address book. My apologies for making you a company today. Sorry, even though I still had a lot of fun, perhaps because it was my first time going to a store like that. Or maybe it was because Nishijo-kun was with me. What time will you be coming to school tomorrow? I'm only asking because I was hoping I'd be able to say hello tomorrow morning, that's all. It'd be nice if we could run into each other again tomorrow. Well, be sure to email you again soon. Good night. When she said things like, maybe it was because Nishijo-kun was with me, or I was hoping I'd be able to say hello tomorrow morning, I just couldn't help but feel like she was up to something. Post it now. It's tame, chill the fuck out. Just usual greetings and shit. Whatever, bro, just post it. Okay. All right. So he's doing it all word by word. Okay. Grim wouldn't stop pestering me, so I just gave up and posted the entire email, though I did censor mind you as personal information at least. Oh ho ho, would you look at that lovey-dovey email? Kill yourself, Nightheart, you normie scum. Please take this seriously. This must be some kind of trap. Yeah, how tight that tinfoil hat you got on. You sure you're not overthinking it? It just looks like you raised a flag with this chick to me. You're almost at the good end already. That's what I mean, there's no way this is real. You think this could happen to an otaku freak like me? There's no way. You think a cute girl would try to pick me up in real life? Dude, LOL, are you seriously complimenting your girlfriend already? Could you quit trolling for 1 second? Come on, I already told you, you're overthinking it. We're two of a kind, aren't we, Nightheart? We both know good girls like that don't exist anymore. Yeah, I was fully aware, but she really was just that nice, and that's exactly what didn't feel right to me. Well, maybe her stalking shit went a bit too far. But that's kind of hot, don't you think? It means she really likes you. You said she likes anime? No way such a perfect girlfriend exists, bro. Not for us otaku anyway. Just don't go ruining her with your degenerate shit. Well, that might not be so bad. Scratch that. That was exactly what I wanted. Still cheer up a bit, she made the first move, bro. I'm not into 3D. You say that, but we both know you really want to go out with her, am I right?
そうだけど。
If you wanted to otakify yourself, now's your chance. You won't get a second one, and you know it. Congrats, you're popular now. Won't last long, so don't let it go to waste. Just keep calm and go on the attack. Just be Nightheart in real life, you can do it. You got the green light, bro. If I could just do it, I wouldn't be going through so much turmoil. Like, I realized something when I was talking with Yua the other day. Sure, there was a couple of moments where I'd had fun or felt happy, but aside from that, I just felt annoyed and completely exhausted. If that was what I had to go through with every in real life interaction, then I'd honestly rather just live in the 2D world where I could do whatever I wanted. And that was why I decided not to reply to Yua's email. Aww. A fire burned bright into the sky. Scorching red cinders danced around the incinerator. The flame was fueled by a sailor-style school uniform along with countless textbooks. Alright, we're introducing another girl. On a foothill overlooking the Seto Inland Sea, a girl stood in her home's garden. The steam whistles of boats echoed in the distance, and the nearby trees gently swayed in the refreshing sea breeze. In the midst of such a serene scene, the girl, Orihana Kozue, stood still and alone in front of the incinerator, bathing in the somber ambience of its cinders. The girl's gaze was locked onto the school uniform and textbooks as they were slowly reduced to ashes, each becoming clad in a crimson glimmer, but until only yesterday they had been her school uniform and her textbooks. Despite having lit the fire herself, the girl did not move from the spot, perhaps out of a lingering sense of regret. That too lasted only a moment. She suddenly knitted her eyebrows and covered her ears as hard as she could. She gasped in agony, and yet she did nothing more. The girl did not moan, nor did she raise any tearful complaints. All she let out was a series of ragged breaths. She shook her head repeatedly from side to side, as if to express a fierce, visceral objection. And as she did, her strength slowly started to crumble, and she collapsed to the ground. She fell on her backside with a thud, let her jaw droop as if utterly exhausted, and looked up to the sky with a dazed expression on her face. Minutes later, she was still in that exact same position, not having moved a single muscle. Until suddenly, she turned around with conviction, as if she heard someone call out to her. She looked toward the house's porch. The wooden house had been built over 50 years ago, so despite it being daytime, it appeared quite dim. Anything beyond the porch could barely be seen. Kozue slowly stood back up and walked over to the porch. And at that very moment, her mother appeared with impeccable timing.
あら、小杖ちゃん、探してたのよ。もう荷物の整理はできたの?
Kozue, okay, the mom just said her name, and I already am like, Kozu? I'll go with that unless corrected. Kozu promptly nodded and slowly sat
あ
down.
さってにはもう、この家ともお別れなのね。
Her mother took a seat next to her, gazing toward the inland sea with a gentle look in her eye.
東京なんて行くの、 梢ちゃんは初めてよね。いいお友達ができるといいわね。
So I'm guessing she's probably going to be going to the same school. Despite her mother's caring words, Kozu did not nod, nor even shake her head in response. She simply remained silent, gazing wistfully toward the still burning incinerator in the corner of the garden. Okay, so that one was a little bit more of like a wholesome episode, I guess you could say. Only some mentions about the murders. Obviously, he's got a little bit of PTSD from seeing the murder, except has anyone, I just realized too, I'm like, did anybody comment about the newest murder? Did anybody even see it? I don't think there was really any mention about the new murder with like the guy who was tacked up on the wall with a bunch of crosses and stuff. But from this, we've learned that Takumi has a little sister. He's met this new girl, Yua, who seems like oddly fascinated with him. They have a connection. Maybe he's learning that 3D girls aren't so bad after all, but still, he's still very suspicious of her and a little bit afraid of her. And then saw at the very, very beginning, there was the girl with the short blue hair, or like something about FES, whatever that is. And then the girl at the very end who seems to be moving to Tokyo. So I'm sure that we're going to meet her at some point. Like, who are these girls? How are they involved? I'm assuming we're going to learn these things later. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode and stay tuned next week for part 3. Until then, bye. Shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Salieri, Revealing Storm, Amlife, Icognito, Saturn Sins, Doubless91, Harry Gazip, Kenju Storm, and Lynn's VA.